Max Verstappen comes home to win the Canadian Grand Prix.
In 2023, Max Verstappen wins the Canadian Grand Prix. Max Verstappen wins the Canadian Grand Prix.
Listen, guys, the most dangerous driver on the planet is about to walk into a track that either loves him or tries to destroy him. Max Verstappen and Montreal. It's not just a race weekend. It's a storyline that rewrites itself every single year. Today, we're breaking down why this weekend is different, what his car desperately needs to survive, and why a single rain cloud over the St. Lawrence River could completely flip this entire championship picture. Buckle up, because this one gets interesting fast. Let's break it down, but before, if you want more updates and news on Max, then hit that like button and subscribe for more breakdowns. The legend of Max in Montreal. Hold on, before we even talk about this weekend, let me show you something most people completely overlook. Max Verstappen has been absolutely untouchable at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve for 4 years straight. 4 consecutive pole positions from 2022 through 2025, 3 race wins, and 1 P2 finish. That is not a coincidence, that is a pattern. And patterns like this don't happen by accident. In 2022, qualifying was soaking wet and completely chaotic, and Max still put his Red Bull nearly 7/10ths clear of everyone. He converted that pole into a dominant win ahead of Sainz and Hamilton. Then in 2023, same story. Wet qualifying, Max on pole again, led every single lap from lights to flag, and picked up Red Bull's 100th Formula One victory in the process. 2 years, 2 poles, 2 wins. The man was genuinely treating Montreal like his personal test track, and nobody could do a single thing about it. Then 2024 gets genuinely dramatic. Max and George Russell set the exact same qualifying time, which has only happened twice in the entire history of Formula One. Russell took pole by setting it first, but Max didn't care. He started P2, navigated a completely chaotic wet-dry race, survived 2 safety car periods, switched tires at exactly the right moments, and crossed the line first ahead of Norris and Russell. 3 wins in a row in Montreal. Then, in 2025, Russell finally got the full weekend, pole and the race win, with Max having to settle for P2. But even then, dragging himself to second in a car that clearly wasn't the fastest just shows what this circuit brings out in Verstappen. 4 years, 4 poles, 3 wins, and a podium. Montreal is basically his second home. Max has turned Montreal into his personal fortress over the years, and even when the odds stack against him, this track has a way of bringing out the absolute best in the man. What the RB22 actually needs to do here. So here's where it gets really interesting. The car Max is bringing to Montreal in 2026 is not the same dominant machine from previous years. The RB22 is dealing with some serious problems, and this specific circuit puts every single one of them under a spotlight. Circuit Gilles Villeneuve is a low downforce track with long straights, tight hairpins, and heavy braking zones. It punishes cars that can't stop properly, can't put power down cleanly, and can't handle the curbs without throwing the rear end around. Right now, the RB22 has issues with all 3 of those things, and that is honestly a scary combination on a street circuit with walls everywhere. Fix the straight line engine deficit. The 2026 regulations completely rewrote how power units work. The MGU-K now pumps out roughly 350 kilowatts, nearly 3 times what the old system produced, creating an almost equal split between combustion and electrical energy. Red Bull's raw top speed is actually competitive, with telemetry showing Max matching Mercedes on certain straight line sections. The problem is deployment, how the car manages and delivers that electrical energy throughout a lap. On Montreal's long back straight, if that energy runs out at the wrong moment, cars behind will drive straight past like Max is standing still. That is the knife edge Red Bull is walking every single lap. Managing axle instability over the curbs. Now, this is honestly the scariest issue for Red Bull this weekend. The RB22 has a rear-end instability problem that is visible on camera whenever Max pushes through high-speed corners. He is making steering corrections that no driver should ever need to make, and both him and teammate Isaac Hadjar are recording noticeably lower apex speeds because of it. Even Toto Wolff watched Max's onboard footage and said the car looks horrendous to drive. And that is coming from a rival team boss who has every reason to stay quiet. Montreal's famous chicanes are lined with curbs that will absolutely punish a loose rear end. One wrong input over the sausage curbs, and that back end steps out on you. There is also a brake temperature issue. Because the MG UK recovers so much energy during braking, the actual brake discs don't heat up properly, making braking feel inconsistent and unpredictable. On a circuit with walls everywhere and zero margin for error, that is a genuinely frightening combination to manage. The dynamic operating map. Here is the layer that most casual fans completely miss. After the Miami upgrades, the RB22 is still around 10 kilograms over its minimum weight target. In Formula One, every single kilogram costs roughly 0.03 of a second per lap. And that adds up quietly across 70 laps in a way that slowly destroys your race strategy before it even begins. The car also loses ERS efficiency precisely where it needs energy most, mid-corner and corner exit, forcing Red Bull to constantly manage a compromise between pushing hard and protecting the system for the next sector. It is basically asking Max to solve 3 separate problems simultaneously while racing wheel-to-wheel against the fastest cars on the grid. The wild card, St. Lawrence weather. Let me show you the wild card that could change absolutely everything this weekend. Montreal weather is historically and famously unpredictable, and current forecasts are showing a 60 to 70% chance of rain on race day Sunday. Only one of the last 8 Canadian Grand Prix finished without a safety car intervention. Martin Brundle put it perfectly. The drivers are genuinely a little scared about what these 2026 cars will feel like in the wet because nobody has pushed them in fully competitive wet conditions yet. But here is the thing. If it rains, Mercedes and McLaren's performance advantage shrinks dramatically. The deployment gap matters less, raw mechanical grip matters less, and suddenly everything comes down to instinct, bravery, and reading the race moment by moment. And there is not a single driver on this grid more dangerous than Max Verstappen when conditions turn unpredictable. What happens next? So let's bring this all together. Max walks into Montreal with 4 years of dominance at this circuit, but in a car that is overweight, rear-end unstable, and fighting an ERS efficiency battle that nobody has fully solved yet. Dry race. Mercedes and McLaren hold a genuine structural advantage down every single straight. But one rain cloud over the St. Lawrence River neutralizes that deficit almost completely, and suddenly Max becomes the most dangerous weapon on the grid again. My honest opinion, I think Max finds a way onto that podium regardless of conditions, because he always finds something extra in Montreal that nobody else can explain. But dragging this RB22 to another win would honestly be one of the greatest drives of his entire career. So here is what I want to know from you. Do you think Max can drag this troubled RB22 to a legendary 4th straight Canadian win? Or will the engine deficit finally catch up to him down that back straight? Drop your answer in the comments below, and if you haven't subscribed yet, now is a really good time to do that.